Joining us today is Andrew Schotz of the Herald-Mail in Hagerstown, Maryland. Schotz started out as a part-time sports reporter at a weekly newspaper outside of Albany, New York. After just 3 months, he stepped out of his comfort zone to take on a full-time job covering local politics. Since 2000, he's been the political reporter for the Herald-Mail, covering local and state politics. You take national issues like healthcare and the stimulus funds. What are the challenges of putting that on more of a local perspective for like the Hagerstown and the rest of your readership?
Generally, we try to be a pretty local paper. We're a community daily, and most of the issues that we cover are based right here through the city government, the county government, the school system. We cover every meeting that they have, and we have reporters who are devoted just to those beats. We also have some generalist assignment stories that we do every now and then. If we have time and space, we try to look at some national issues. In fact, we're doing a series of stories right now about healthcare. The challenge is, like you said, trying to make it local. We offer news that you can't get elsewhere.
What are some of the benefits for working for a smaller paper covering state and local government?
Benefits are that you get to do a lot of work, which most people will like. If you're a journalist, you're used to constantly doing stories, cranking out copy, feeding the beast, as they say. Here you do get that chance. We have a pretty small staff compared to some of the metro dailies, which also means that you get to do a variety of things. Even the education reporter or the city reporter will be called upon to do a lot of general assignment stories. You also get to work in a community where people know you and feel ownership of the paper, which I don't think you'll feel, say, at the New York Times. People value the paper, but they don't know the reporters or the staff, and I think that has an influence on how you report and present the news.
What is the overall state of more local newspapers like the Frederick News Post and the Herald-Mail?
Well, the papers that you mentioned probably are in the middle somewhere. Local news is a way for papers to survive the current crunch. Large papers are just now coming around to this. If you look at community dailies and weeklies, they're not doing as badly because they're more insulated. Like I said before, that's a product that you only can get from those sources. So we're not out there trying to compete and build all these websites and come up with all these features to keep up with CNN or the New York Times. We have our own niche, and the communities really depend on it.
So you started off as a sports writer?
I did.
So what drew you to politics?
I'd say the motivation was having a full-time job. I covered sports almost entirely in college. That was my first beat. It was covering men's soccer. Got to cover a lot of different things, then became a sports editor, then became editor-in-chief of the paper where I wasn't really writing much. But I still was interested in sports. When I saw the notice for a 10-hour-a-week job, it was actually a month before I graduated. I thought that fit in very well, and it was a good way to get out there and maybe find a job. Within about 4 or 5 months, they had fired their political reporter for the top town that they cover, and I ended up just taking the job because I was interested, not because I had a whole lot of experience. But my editor's advice was follow the money. It was not a whole lot of advice, but covering government was not really too difficult once you're used to reporting. It's just an adjustment in what you were covering.
So how important are blogs in a community newspaper?
I don't think they are terribly important, but at the same time we have to remember that there's an interest in this type of connectedness that a lot of newspapers are doing. People definitely like the interactivity. They like posting after stories on our website, but what we can't lose sight of is that this can't be our focus. We are still a newspaper. We still need standards, and can't just open up the gates and let people say and do whatever they want on our website, because it really creates a Wild West atmosphere where people seem emboldened and will say things they normally wouldn't. So the interactivity is good, but we can't lose sight of what we do.
So what would you tell a college student, maybe a junior or senior in college, who wants to get involved in a more local newspaper?
I think it's the best way to start. It's hard to get a job anywhere, so whatever you can do is good. Working at a weekly newspaper like I did, I think is a terrific grounding. The pay isn't great, the hours are tough, which might not sound attractive, but it gets you so well versed in a lot of different things.
For Journalists on Journalism, I'm Benjamin Knepp. I'd like to thank Andrew Schotz for joining us today, and I'd like to thank you, the listener, for joining us. Please check back for future installments or subscribe to the series today.